We are doing something really exciting today. It is the first time that we are doing an ARU Reads Reddit posts, but it's also with a twist because it's a Christmas special. And without further ado, I want to introduce our lovely co-host today on this podcast. And would you just explain a little bit about your background and your name?
Yeah, so I'm Sheryl and I'm a student money advisor. So I work in student services and basically do what it says on the tin. I help students with anything to do with their money and funding, and I think relevant to today, budgeting.
Hi, my name's Ben. I work in the iCentre, but I've also been a student advisor and I'm a mental health first aider. So I've had a fair bit to do with kind of helping students solve problems and work out things with their assessments and that sort of thing, which is quite relevant at this time of year.
And my name is Ellen, and I will be hosting this podcast today on ARU Reads Reddit. And I am predominantly based in the Faculty of Business and Law and working in the student engagement team. I say predominantly like I'm other places, but I am mainly always there. So today's concept is I'll be reading some Reddit posts from online. Hopefully you're familiar with the concept of Reddit. And just so our audience knows as well, some of these are being heard for the first time, and we want your automatic response to the post I'm about to read. And then after I've read the original posters, I'm going to read a couple of comments and see if that's changed your opinions in any way, shape or form. The first one I think is a pretty nice one to start with.
Thank you.
It's titled, "Not Gifting a Gift in Return." Dun, dun, dun. So they said, I'll keep this short, and they do keep this short. "I received a Christmas card and a box of celebrations, other chocolates are available, from my neighbours that lives opposite. I moved in April of this year. We speak maybe once every week for a minute or so, but we aren't very close. Am I wrong if I don't gift anything back? I'm on a budget this month and I will not go over. My friends believe I'm in the wrong for me thinking I must. However, if the shoe were on the other foot, I wouldn't expect a gift in return, and I did not ask for this. Thoughts?"
That's a tricky one, I'm going to say, because there's multiple things happening here. So why is the neighbour gifting you a gift? Is it because they are perhaps lonely and they just want to do something nice for you and perhaps expecting something in return because perhaps they don't receive many presents? So maybe it's kind of like done out of kindness, but also just to have a conversation and to get something out of it. But also you don't really want to set a precedent either.
Oh, especially when you moved in April.
Yes.
That's a lot of Christmases you might have to keep up this tradition with, right?
Exactly. And then it's even more awkward to stop, isn't it? So it's tricky depending on how, you can look at it from the kindness of your heart and think, I could just get them something really, really small, just a token gift. They're doing it for me. As they perhaps, they don't have many people in their life, so many gifts. So it's something nice to do. It could maybe start off a conversation, maybe sort of turn into a neighbourly relationship into a friendship.
Yeah.
But if you can't really afford it, then there are other people that are more important in your life that you do feel you want to, manage your budget and spend on. And, you could say, well, I don't really see them enough and they don't mean enough to me. So it doesn't really matter if I perhaps offend them a tiny bit. I'm sure they get over it.
Of course, yeah.
So, but that's just, a couple of opinions there.
No.
I think perhaps what you kind of touched on there is perhaps the response is as important as whether or not you actually buy them something.
Yeah.
So, a gift should be, in theory, we all know it, kind of given out of a desire to give the other person something rather than an expectation of getting a gift back. Not always the way, we know. Well, that's kind of, I think you can choose to take it in that spirit. But if it's somebody you kind of feel comfortable being friendly with, and that's an important caveat, I think, but if it's someone you feel comfortable being friendly with, then just a friendly response and kind of showing that you appreciate it can go a long way, I think. But the other thing is, if it's something where you kind of want to reciprocate in spirit, but it's a difficult time at the moment, that doesn't mean that in the future, you can't drop in some food if you're making some food, or you can't, give them a little gift or help them out with something in the future. So perhaps it's about taking it in that spirit rather than needing to respond and reciprocate exactly in the way that they've approached you.
But I guess context is everything. We don't know much about this person. They could be elderly, they could be younger, they could fancy them, who knows? This gift could come from many different aspects. It could be a thank you because they really appreciate the time that they've spent with them. It could also be them regifting because they're lactose intolerant and wanting to get rid of the chocolates from their house. So we don't know the motive, and I think that's really important to know that we're going on very limited information here from the original poster. But I'm just going to read the first comment that came back in, and then maybe we can just expand a little bit more on our opinions. Does it change anything? So the first response was, at least give a card, possibly make a gift of cookies, cake, even peppermint candles if you can. If you're on a budget, those things cost money. So that's my initial thing, is not just the time for that card. Yes, maybe, but making something, unless you've got the things, that could be more expensive than a box of chocolates.
I guess it depends if you already have those things in your house.
Yeah.
If you're a baker, naturally, I am, so I'm already going to have pretty much the ingredients. So baking a batch of cookies or something isn't going to be much of a cost to me, and it's a really nice thing to do. But like you said, if you don't naturally have those things at home and you've got to buy things, so if I was going to have to craft something, I would have to be, down the shops buying all those things and probably making a mess of it. So it would take multiple times for me to actually make something half decent. That would be a cost. So
and if I gave you a box of chocolates and you gave me cookies in return, I'd feel like I'd have to gift you something else because I'd feel like you've gone above and beyond. Is it the complexities of this?
Yeah.
How do you navigate that?
I mean, I'm not a crafter. Also, peppermint candles? Is this a thing now?
Or does it say candies? Is this candies?
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Makes more
Context
sense
is
now.
everything, right?
I mean, that is a Christmas thing. Those little
Christmassy,
peppermint candies like your nan makes.
That's that was my fault, my mistake on that one. But yeah, any thoughts on that comment?
So again, it comes down to really what you're happy and able to do, and what would give you some joy. So, if you're a baker and you enjoy baking and you want to bake, a little something to give them, then that's great. Even if you're not a baker, the Millie's cookies recipe.
Well, that's a good one. That is, I've used that.
Yeah.
If you're thinking the same one I'm thinking of, it is a good recipe.
I think I have. It's
Foolproof.
on the BBC.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's, it's very easy to do, pretty cheap as well, which is important. But it still requires quite a bit of investment to make that time, go buy the ingredients, etc. And I think if you're not going to get any joy out of it, you're just feeling like you should do it, then maybe that's not the thing to do.
But who doesn't get joy out of eating cookies?
Eating, yes.
You
Baking,
bake the
not
cookies
always.
for yourself,
Yeah.
and then just gift some.
That is so true. I think
that's the point.
maybe it's just my brain because I am neurodivergent. So I think I overthink things a lot of the time. So I can imagine this being quite difficult for someone because it is about standard setting and it's about understanding what the social etiquette is in these situations. And I would find that really overwhelming if someone gives me a gift, because I understand it might be their love language, but mine might be like words of like affirmation or something like that. And I'm not going to go back to them and be like, oh, you look really nice. Thanks for the chocolates. You look nice. And that might not sit very well. So it's sort of about not putting that social pressure on yourself as well, because it is Christmas. It is just a box of chocolates that could mean something to someone. But if you read into it too much, you could drive yourself mad. Like, we're coming up with all these suggestions about baking cookies. And I actually think the next response on here is quite a good kind of thought process to it. So they've said no, but if you want to be polite, which this is what it comes down to, isn't it? It's about maintaining that relationship with someone. You should write a thank you note. Gifts should not come with an expectation that makes it an exchange. I believe that people should be generous when they can, and people should not be expected to be generous when they cannot afford to do so. And I think the thing for me that jumps out the most in that is the thank you part. Yeah. How often do we write written notes? You don't even have to write paragraphs, but just a card that said thank you on it is really nice. And then if you do have a good relationship with them and it is a safe environment for you to, it could be someone you definitely don't want to invite in your house, but you could be like, oh, do you want to come in and have a cuppa and have a chocolate with me because I can't eat them all on my own? It's those nice conversational moments, I feel, and that engaging in more than a gift exchange. I think that's what it kind of comes down to. But what are your thoughts on the thank you notes?
I love that.
Do you write thank you notes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very big on thank yous, because at the end of the day, that person has gifted you something. And so it's nice for them to feel appreciated. And as someone that receives a gift, you appreciate that.
Yeah.
So absolutely take it as kindness that you've received something. And yeah, sending them a note, saying thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. If there's something, perhaps I can do in return. For example, if it is, say, an elderly neighbour, they're going to really value that. But you can, like I said, maybe offer to help them out with something that perhaps they need doing. Just say, if you have any odd jobs that you need my help with, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Read the room. Who is this person?
Yeah.
But for example, if it is someone that's perhaps living on their own, they might just feel happy just knowing that they've got someone there that they can potentially send a message to and just say, oh, my TV's broken. I don't know how to sort this out. Any idea?
And they could be viewing you as the person that's on your own and isolated as well. So it might just be a connection thing and an acknowledgement of that.
The only thing, again, is that we're kind of, once we start talking about it, we keep building it up.
It's narrative.
Into a bigger thing because getting into it. I think you made a really good point in that some of us deal with social interactions by the rules, right? Particularly people who are neurodivergent, you often learn what's the appropriate response, which is perfectly reasonable. It's how we navigate the world, or how some people navigate the world. So I think to be clear in terms of the social rule here, I think if we say the social rule is that you don't need to do anything.
But thank them.
Yes. Okay. So be thankful. As long as it's kind of given appropriately, be thankful. But the social rule is you don't need to do anything to reciprocate. Anything you do, be it a thank you note or whatever else that we've kind of touched on, that's a bonus.
Yes.
Right? That is something extra. It's nice to do, but it's not required of you. So we say the social rule is you can say thank you and leave it there.
And I think that's the thing. It's in the moment saying thank you. When I interjected in and said thank you, I'm not talking about the thank you note. I think it's that gratitude in the moment. Thank you. You really didn't have to. Don't do it again because I'm not doing it for you. But it's that kind of acknowledgement and appreciation. And even if you feel comfortable to, saying you really didn't have to. I really appreciate this because it's been such a pleasure getting to know you and I really have valued our conversation. And you can just leave it at that.
Or you can drop in maybe into the thank you conversation that perhaps you're having and just say, I am on a budget, so I really don't have that time or money to treat myself. So thank you so much for the chocolates.
Yes,
that's a real treat. So you're thanking them, but also putting in that you are on a budget.
But then you could also end up with food parcels on your doorstep for the next few days. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
But no, I love this. And I think that it narrows down to, if you gifted something, there should be no expectations, but to have their gratitude there and thank, but then it shouldn't be an expectation that you're thank you, I owe you everything, but it's that acknowledgement of that gift and that person's intent. I think that's the most important thing to take away from this one. So that's our first one out the way. We should move on to our second post, and this one is I'm reading this for the first time as well, so hopefully I won't get any words wrong again this time and make candles into candies and vice versa. Christmas alone in the UK. Places to go, things to do. Seems like all closed down for the week. It's true, it does feel like that sometimes, unless you're doing your shopping on Christmas Eve. That's definitely not me. I will be alone in the UK at Christmas. Everything seems to be closed down, raining and cold. Yeah, that's true. What is there to do? It seems the English people just go to church and have a big lunch with family and then stay home all day watching the royal speech. If you are alone, where can you go or what can you do that's open? Do you have any recommendations? Even if you stay in a hotel, the leisure and spa are closed. Local attractions are closed. You have nothing to do except sometimes they have a big lunch, which is also boring alone. There are some edits on this, but I will leave the edits out for now. And just get your initial thoughts on that, because I laughed a little bit because the royal speech, I can't remember the last time I've actually sat down and watched that. And I love this stereotype that it's miserable outside, it's raining, all we do is eat food, everything's closed. It's It's true.
Sounds about right
yeah,
to me.
it does.
Yeah, it's at
But-
least 2 days, really, isn't it? I wouldn't say the whole
Yeah.
week is closed, but definitely Christmas Day, it seems like a massive shutdown. Boxing Day, maybe some things open, but again, it's still pretty much not a lot is happening. So it can be really difficult if you are on your own and you haven't got anywhere to go. But there are things you could look at doing, perhaps volunteering. That's a really obvious one. So because there are other people in the same situation, and there are societies and communities out there that do look for volunteers at Christmas time, be it, let's say, a homeless shelter, maybe like a care home or something like that, where you can just go give your time, and that would be a good way to spend some of your time, but you're doing something for others as well as yourself.
Absolutely.
So that would be one thing.
I love that. Any other thoughts inside?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think it really depends on your circumstances and what you're into and the sort of communities you're a part of or not a part of. So they did mention church. And if you're religious or you're into that sort of thing, or you have that sort of community, that can be a really good place to find people. And, you will get invited for lunch and that sort of thing. So that can be really good. But I think it's really hard at Christmas if you don't have that sort of pre-built community already existing. I think people are very good at kind of offering something if you're already part of that community, but finding something if you're not is quite challenging. So as I say, so many things are closed. So many kind of social groups on hiatus or whatever over Christmas. I think the volunteering or something of that nature is a great thing.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not for everybody either.
No, I get that. And I think that's great, isn't it, with the volunteering thing? I think knowing what's out there in the first instance can sometimes be hard finding that. And, we've spoken about church. I'm not religious, but I know that's probably a place where if I walked into a church during the week now, I'd feel out of place. But at Christmas time, I feel like it is more of a community place. So it's not about necessarily having that sense of belonging to a community, but knowing that you are welcome. So if that is something in comfort zone as well, but obviously not knowing this person and their circumstances, that might not be something you
you're
want to do.
comfortable with, you absolutely could just walk into a Christmas service and there'd
see
be
what it's
zero
like.
expectation
Yeah,
of knowing anything or doing anything in particular.
and if you've got these preconceived notions of what it's like to live in the UK, and that's what we do. I mean, we don't. I mean, you could sit through and watch the speech or flick through and see what's on the other alternate channels for it. I think I've actually, by no fault of my family, but ended up having to spend a Christmas alone one year, partly alone, due to circumstances. And I remember having to drive to the hospital, and on the way back needing to fill up my car with petrol. And I was like, where do I go? There was a petrol station open, and I went in and I bought myself a loaf of bread and I had toast and for my Christmas dinner. And it sounds tragic. There was a lot obviously going on around that circumstance, but for me, it was just another day. And actually it was a day of pause. It was quiet, and it was nice to drive along the roads and it not be busy and not have the traffic. And it was nice to be sat at home and have the options to watch multiple things on TV or watch nothing. It was just, I kind of saw it more as a day where I could do nothing if I wanted to do nothing as well.
Day.
Yeah, so self-care.
Absolutely. I'm all for that. And I bet you there's a lot of people out there that actually are secretly wishing they were having a day to themselves, like a me day. But that's the thing, you can see it as a day where you can do exactly what you want to do at home, because everywhere's shut, but you can plan all the nice foods that maybe you want to eat, those treats. It doesn't matter if you have like Bailey's hot chocolate at 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is you want, or to have chocolate log for breakfast, if that's what you want to do.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. You will see other people walking, so even if it's just saying hello.
Yeah.
Plan the films that you might want to watch, or binge watch some series that you've been meaning to but you haven't got the time. Read the books that you've got like sitting there waiting to read. Get online with other people as well, because again there will be other people that are spending online, or those who are even spending it with their families are looking for that time away to communicate with other people. So see it as a me day if you can. Plan how you're going to spend that and really treat yourself. And one other thing I would say is if you can make yourself as busy as you possibly can up until Christmas, so, you know, getting out there, going, seeing your friends and family, doing things, you are going to actually really relish having that me day because you're going to be needing that day of rest. So
I'm just going to add in some of the edits here as well, because obviously you said it's not, you know, the whole week, it's just a couple of days. So edit. I also think Boxing Day or maybe the whole week is closed, and New Year's Day is boring and also depressing. So you said that you've worked in mental health at ARU before. It is a really difficult time of year. I think
so
not just for
difficult.
Christmas, but that bringing in a new year, the resolutions, like reflecting. There's a lot of reflecting that happens during this time. And if you are on your own, that can fill a massive void of, like, you know, that too much reflecting and self-doubt. So what's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge it is just a really hard time of year. And, you know, we're kind of thinking about this from a student perspective as well. It's well known, I think, that you often get a dip at the kind of end of the first trimester as you're getting towards Christmas. You know, the shine of the start of the year has worn off. It's dark, it's cold. The people, you know, some of the people you were mates with initially might have let you down slightly, or, you know, relationships evolve as you go through the year. And yeah, it's kind of a time where you can be a bit isolated. So I think one thing is just to acknowledge that it is a really hard time of year, and you're not alone in finding it hard. Lots of people do for lots of different reasons, and it's kind of okay. I think there's also a lot of expectation on it, right?
Yes.
It's a lot of sense it has to be a big event, that if it doesn't feel really special to you, then it's then you're kind of failing in some way. Again, because we're talking about students, universities do a lot. So there may well be events on over Christmas organised by your university, organised by your accommodation.
International
if you're in
office as
accommodation.
well, especially if you're not from the UK.
Absolutely, yes.
Student union.
Yes, yeah.
Student union's great. They will definitely be putting stuff on. There is lots of things. So have a look. ARU, you know, have a look on your website. But any university will be putting stuff on over Christmas, particularly for international students, but usually open to everybody. So really do consider joining in with that.
And I think something that we will do after this post, we have spoke to the international office and they've sent across some of their suggestions, what they would do on this. So we will hopefully be able to include that as a bit of an add-on for those students who might be in a similar situation to the one we're discussing right now. But you did touch on something there as well about that the expectations around Christmas and New Year's, and, you know, we build this up. And there's another edit on here that says, I feel like I have FOMO, so fear of missing out. Like everyone else is doing something and I am bored doing nothing. Usually I like days off to do stuff, but at Christmas it feels like you should do something and be busy. They're shouting at these points in this one with fun things. And I feel sad if I'm missing out, even though I have stuff to do at home. And it is about the expectations of that. And it summarises, you know, it's about managing that for yourself and knowing it is just another day. And you're right, people could be doing things that they don't want to be doing. So think yourself lucky that you have a bit more autonomy over that choice. I am going to move on to the next edit. But before that, I want to read the top comment, because it's, you know, summarise a little bit about maybe what we've said as well. So they've said, big lunch, long walk along the Thames or similar. So obviously they're assuming they're London based, and then Xmas telly. It's just one day. Shops and places open over the next couple of days. Just check the opening times. They must have had lots of suggestions come through, and their final edit on this point says, thanks for the suggestions. I am volunteering for an old folks lunch and party
lovely.
on Christmas Day. And isn't that amazing that they've put this post about feeling lonely and isolated, and everyone's come together to give suggestions. And what's turned out, you know, the core root of this is they are missing out. I imagine people being like, you just sound like you're like jealous, or other people are doing, they're all bitter, or like that could have been the response. But they've turned this into, yes, I do have that FOMO, and I am going to do something about it. So it's really lovely that they've taken those thoughts on board. So what do you think of that as a final edit on there of their solution to their Christmas issues?
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Great solution.
I used to work in social care, and that will really be so appreciated. The impacts that makes is much more than you would think. And people in care are often really isolated as well. So that's a really lovely thing to do and a really lovely idea.
Hopefully they'll all gain from it as well.
Absolutely.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And that person can do that volunteering, and then they can go home and have their me time.
And they could also talk about it, job interviews.
Absolutely.
Tick, 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 doing something in the community and giving back. So it's a win round.
And it might be something that inspires them to do not just at Christmas, but perhaps, do some volunteering throughout the year.
Because you know what they say.
Yeah,
old folk are not just for Christmas.
Absolutely.
They are for life. So that's amazing. So I'm going to move on to the next post, which was posted more recently, actually. So it's been within the last month. And this is a really good point. We will be posting some of the Reddit posts after. So if you do want to go on, have a look and contribute some of your own opinions to that as well, that is absolutely perfect, because this is quite recent. So if you have differing opinions to us, it's a good opportunity to get that in. So the next post we have was written 26 days ago at the time of printing this information. So it's something that we could obviously contribute to in real time. So if you are watching this, feel free to find the post and to contribute. But I think, Sheryl, this might be a contributing factor from reading the title.
Okay, I'm under pressure now.
You are, a little bit. Well, it mentions money. So
okay.
Good Christmas present for broke uni student. Now, I don't know whether we're talking about the uni student is buying the present or they're buying for a uni student who is broke. So it says it straight away. I am not a uni student. Hopefully next year though, fingers crossed. But I have a friend who is. They're at university and he loves it there. But I think he's suffering quite a lot. Oh, that's really sweet. I love that he's taken to a forum to talk about this with his friend. My heart's already going. He's already talking about how he's not eating enough. Oh. And that he's even skipping meals. I'm really concerned about this. And I want to send him some food. Any ideas on anything good? What a good friend. Oh, my friends never sent me food packages or love or anything when I was at university.
That's
So already
nice.
This is you are such a lovely friend for thinking of this. He's also struggling with the cold. It can get really cold in the UK and he doesn't really have many warm clothes. I want to send him a jumper or new pajamas or something like that. So do I order off TikTok/Amazon? Other places are available to purchase things from. There is so much stuff I want to get him, but I also don't want to go way out of budget and blow my bank account. What do you guys think is most useful? So I think we can take from this that this person's probably not living in the UK themselves. So they want to buy something for their friend. So their friend is not only not eating cold, then in a different country to themselves. And I just love that their friend and they have a good enough relationship that friend's picked up on that, because it's good that they've been able to have that communication and I love that. But how do we move forward? What do we do?
Well, we've got a couple of things here really. So there's the concern about not really eating, not being able to afford to do that, and then also the feeling cold. So I'll put on my advisor hat here though and just sort of, say maybe they could encourage the student, their friend, to talk to student services and services such as myself to see if there's anything else that they could perhaps access, any scholarships and bursaries, any hardship funds, for example, but also to have that conversation about why are you not, being able to eat. There's something, perhaps a budgeting issue here. And it'll be really important to have that, honest conversation to discuss their budget. Where is their money going? Because food is a priority.
Yeah.
So perhaps maybe, they might be spending it on other things and not prioritising food, which is really essential and crucial.
Yeah.
You see, it's interesting. We come from our different perspectives, because you immediately went to budget.
Yes.
And my first thought was mental health could be an issue. Not always.
Absolutely. They go in hand.
But they absolutely do, yes. But the answer is the same, which, fortunately universities have a lot more kind of provision for both mental health and practical support, than you do in the general population. So absolutely encourage your friend. if you know somebody like that, to come and speak to student services. And that's largely what we exist for, is to help people who are having a hard time.
Yeah.
So if you're concerned about somebody, and it doesn't have to be like mega concerns, if you're concerned about somebody, even low level, you can always say, have you thought about just popping in and chatting to someone and seeing what they can do to help out? So absolutely, yes.
Maybe
From
they,
one side or the other.
but maybe
Between
they
us, we'll
don't know
get
how
them.
to cook, for example.
Yeah,
So
it can be
maybe
very
like
practical.
they feel that they can't afford to manage because they don't know how to, spend their food budget wisely and cook themselves. If there's someone that is perhaps just buying like ready meals or takeaways, that's going to zap your budget potentially.
Yeah.
So it could just be something as simple as they just don't know how to.
And
Absolutely.
also,
Cook on a
it
budget.
could be like, depending on what country you're from, you could be going into a local big supermarket and finding that the produce that you'd buy normally in your home country is extortionate because it's all imported. Whereas
sure.
there could be specialty shops more locally where you could be able to get more of a bargain and that comfort of knowing what you're working with. I mean, there could be so many eventualities with this. And, something to recognise is obviously, although they couldn't necessarily ring you up and ask you directly for budgeting advice, they could go onto the website and they could do a bit of research beforehand and be like, have you noticed this service? Oh, I've been looking at universities and I first immediately noticed that the university I'm going to has bursaries for this. And the next person that commented on this, the top commenter, said, how about a multi-store gift card? Can get some for the shops that sell food and also for somewhere like Denelm, other shops are available, and he can get himself some blankets or something. It's not a gift card then. No, if not a gift card, then a coat, jumper, warm pyjamas or an electric blanket for his room might be a good shout. Hat, gloves, scarves, maybe a hamper of some essential food bits, beans, soup, pasta, easy things that don't cost much money but will keep him going. For clothes, look at H&M. They have other shops available, a really affordable essentials range. And for food, maybe a trip to Aldi. Lidl obviously does just as good as well. Produce. You can get food from a lot from there for a little money. I love that idea. And someone has, come back in after that and said, electric blanket. I wish I had one of those at uni. I mean, this
is a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. But we're thinking about, now we know that they are maybe sending from abroad, the gift idea, the gift card, and they've already mentioned Amazon. You can do supermarket shops on Amazon now. It blows my mind, the stuff you can get on there. I really love that idea. And something else just from reading through this, why not start another Reddit post? Low cost ideas for food. Like for meal preps, and get other students to comment, and then they can make them a PDF version of a cookbook and send it to them electronically. I think it's the thought that's there as well, but it goes on your idea about a cookbook and the vouchers and anything else that you want to add in, after hearing that comment back.
There was a lot in that comment, wasn't there? It's kind of like they covered all bases, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, using your knowledge of that person and what they might enjoy. I think if you want to do something more personal, because the gift card is a great idea, but you could also, give them a recipe and buy the ingredients for delivery to them.
Love that.
So they can try making something without having the kind of effort of going and finding all the right ingredients and that sort of thing. So you could get them delivered from the supermarket for them.
Yeah.
A lot of it, again, to do Sheryl it, comes down to how much they want to spend. And I think that's the really difficult question, is we know on both sides that things like supermarket shops are really expensive nowadays. You go in and get kind of one basket of stuff and it's 30 quid. And you're like, how did that happen? So I think it is being careful about what you want to spend and making good choices in that regard. And I think, knowing that somebody cares about them and has put the effort in, and those low cost things like finding them some good recipes and stuff can be really nice additions that don't cost anything but really show that you're thinking about them.
Yeah, and it opens conversations as well for them to be able to talk about, I've noticed this, and maybe even ask them directly, I've noticed that you've been struggling with this and I want to get you a meaningful gift. And maybe that could be a lead in as well, to talk about, okay, how can I help you? I want to help you in a way to gift you something, but is there more I can do to help you beyond the financial side of buying you something?
Or you could just sort of bring into conversation about how you've managed your own situation in the same circumstance. For example, like, everyone knows heating bills and things have gone up. So I actually got myself an electric blanket and it was the best thing ever. And so I wanted to give you an electric blanket, for example, too, because I've had so much value out of it. So it's not it's not you making that person feel like they need help, because sometimes that's really difficult, isn't it? It's just more giving your own experience and then sharing that experience, and it actually works out.
And why are they cold? Are they cold because they're living in student accommodation where the heating doesn't work properly?
Yeah.
Is there something that can be done beyond that? And I think just knowing that, how to get that support and to not suffer in silence, I think is really important. But I love that. And it sounds like a really good friend.
Yeah.
And they're very lucky to have such a lovely
very
friend like
sweet.
they are.
And we say gift card is the gift of choice at the end of the day as well. So it can be difficult to perhaps buy clothing for another person because maybe you're not particularly sure on their sizing. And we all know that different shops even have, if you're a size 12, that's a size 12 in one shop and a size 10 in another shop and a 16 in another. So it can be really hard to sort of judge and to perhaps buy them something specific. So like I say, if you can buy them like a gift card with the intention of, I really want you to use this to get yourself a new jumper or something like that.
Yeah.
That also feels like
that.
the person that's spending that has got a little bit of a treat to do, that gives them that activity to like go shopping and like to buy something for themselves that, they've been given. So
I love that. What a lovely friend. And another person, so it's on the next post, who might not be deemed to be a lovely friend. We will soon see on this one.
You gotta love Reddit.
Do you know, I'm not actually going to read you. I'll read you I'm going to read you the title and get your opinions on the title, and then read you the actual post. If that's okay, do it a bit differently on this one.
Go for it.
Planning a Christmas party at my flat with my uni friends. Tips. What do you think about when you think about a party at a flat? I'm assuming student accommodation. Where does your thought process go?
messy.
This is a difficult one for me because I've kind of, if I'm honest, I've been on both sides of this. So way back in the midst of time, I was a student myself. And we were in some lovely accommodation, which I think probably no longer exists in Liverpool. And there certainly were parties. Not in my flat, I think, but in my friends. And we probably annoyed some people, and we probably had a great time as well. And it's very difficult. So I have very fond memories of that. And I don't want to kind of be too much of a, you should never do that. So this might be the wrong answer, but I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I used to work for Residence Life at another university, which was about helping students in accommodation. And so there was, a lot of aspect of going around and encouraging students to be more pro-social.
Yes.
Because you do live in close proximity to a lot of other people. And, it's very easy to have quite a big negative impact on someone else with those choices without really realising it. So my kind of reconciliation of those two things, and, please feel free to weigh in on this, is I would start off with expectation management, which is a long way of saying speak to people around you. Is everybody who's going to be affected on the same page? When are you doing it? Like, have people got exams the next day? Because there's nothing worse than being, trying to study or trying to sleep when you're worried about an exam, and you've got the people who've already finished their exams below or above you, really having a great time, but causing you a massive headache. So it's really being considerate, I think, and making good choices, thinking about noise, thinking about smells. People often don't think about smells, but it can have a real impact on other people. Will everybody in your flat or the flat where you're having a party be happy with that? Is there other places you could do it? Might be ideal. Or if there's common spaces where you can take over. It's difficult at university because you often don't have a space you kind of own to do things in. But my middle ground is, if you're going to do it, be considerate of people around you.
Of course. Cheryl, any thoughts?
Sorry, I just kind of went off on that.
Yeah,
I
I
think you
totally
summarised.
agree with everything that's been said on that.
Thank you.
I think, yeah.
As you should.
And my only other thought was maybe, like you did say, does it have to be held in your flat where you are? Could you not consider, going out? And I know we would normally assume going out is going to cost more, but if you're hosting a party, by the time you've bought all the nibbles and food and potentially drink, and then the cleaning up as well, which can cost money if you've got to buy the products, but time as well.
Can cost your deposit, depending on the party.
Could you not all
Cost of
just
repairs.
pull in, 5 or 10 or whatever is each, and then use that pot of money to go out somewhere
Okay,
and spend
so
it
do a
that
little
way
bit of a
instead. And then you don't have to worry about getting the consent of your housemates, flatmates.
But then it's making the assumption that everyone drinks as well.
Well,
going out in
exactly,
that
that's what I
scenario.
mean.
So it's
It
hard
doesn't
to get that balance. Where do you go? Meals are so expensive. I'm like, I love a party, probably because I haven't got invited to some for a very long time. If anyone wants to invite me to parties, that's fine. I just don't have much of a social life anymore. And I think it's a prime time to have parties and to enjoy yourself with that level of consideration there. And a party, in our opinion, could be like when we were at uni, very different to what a party might look like in this context. Again, we don't know the ins and outs of it. Their party could be playing some board games, or it could be something that's, we're automatically thinking that there's going to be lots of alcohol involved or noise and food like that. So again, it very much depends on the type of it. And I like the fact that it's a Christmas party. It sounds like a one-off event. And the fact they're writing a post about it already suggests to me that they're quite conscientious about others.
Yeah.
And they are, because they have gone on to say, and I'll read the post now, that they're thinking that that should be hosted in their flat. They've bullet pointed. They've got these in sections. They've really gone in on this. They should be in their flat because they have wide corridors to compensate for a not particularly big kitchen. So already thinking about the spatial aspect of it. I might open up my room. So they're already thinking about the space beyond the corridors. My flatmates are pretty chill, so they'll allow it, which is, again, is nice. So they might even be involved. Money spent. I supply the Christmas nibbles, snacks, mince pies, chocolates, like Quality Streets, other sweets are available. They can even make friends with the person who got the celebrations in the previous post.
Other chocolates are available.
Yeah, they definitely are. Crisps, they don't specify whether they're Walkers, other brands available, or a different one or not, Kettle Crisp, whatever it might be. Depends how much the budget will go.
Other crisps.
Yeah, and guests can bring their own drinks. Keeping the place clean. So again, they've thought about the cleaning aspect of it. Letting my flatmates who may not want to be in their party, want in the party, lock their rooms so they don't get messy. So they don't want the parties obviously trailing into their rooms, which is fine. Thank you for giving them permission to lock their own bedrooms. Guide guests to the toilets, bathrooms, which is just very sweet. Have Mario Kart on TV in the kitchen to minimise erratic movement. They are being really thoughtful about where the flow of people will be contributed to be concentrated
I'm
at.
impressed. I've never thought about minimising erratic movement to one of my parties.
I don't know what kind
In
of
fact,
erratic
if you've seen me
movement you'd
dance,
have.
it's more maximising erratic movement.
Oh yeah, if you've seen me dance, it is erratic movements, to be fair. So I can kind of understand that. Sit me in front of Mario Kart so I don't move. If anyone has any suggestions for what I should do, please drop them in the comments. Suggestions. I'm not sure if this is a suggestion following on from that or not. So let's just get initial reactions to that and I'll go on to the suggestions at the bottom. I think they might be their own suggestions, but let's have a think. Now you know a bit more context and what this person's thinking. How do you make this a successful party for everyone involved? They're going to have the party regardless. How do you make it a good party where everyone feels happy?
That seems better planned and maybe a little bit more low-key than some of my initial assumptions, which might be a good thing. It sounds, and maybe I'm misjudging it based on what you said, but it sounds like less dancing on the tables and more kind of hanging out and Mario Karting and snacks, which I'm genuinely in favour of. That sounds great. I think my thought listening to that is they've obviously thought about it a lot. I wonder if they're thinking about how many people they're inviting, because again, small student flats get quite busy quite quickly.
Yes, yeah.
So, if they're kind of inviting, 5 or 10 people, that might fill up quite quickly after that. So it's just maybe having that consideration as well.
Yeah. Of course. And any initial thoughts for you, Sheryl?
I mean, I'm loving the organisation side
It's
of this, because they
organised.
sound
I
like
bet
they're
they've got
really
an
trying to
Excel
think about
spreadsheet.
everything,
Yeah.
which I think is really good. And that's it. It's just really important that everybody knows perhaps what kind of party this is going to be and what it is, and,
Yes.
you know, invite the people that you want to invite, and they all know what kind of party it is.
Yeah. No, definitely.
To stop other people potentially joining
Yeah.
the party. But yeah, as long as everybody's happy,
I think
and you know what the deal is. I said, is it going to be more chilled, playing games? Is it going to be a bit of a drinking session?
Yeah.
Is
Well,
it
just bring
going
your
to
own
be,
drinks. I think
you
that's
know?
open to interpretation of you know what you bring along. The only thing
Yeah.
I've read on here that is more concerning to me actually is that they will be supplying the Christmas nibbles, snacks, mince pies, and that's lovely. But as long as they're not putting themselves in a financially difficult situation,
Absolutely.
I think bring your own snacks and bring your own gifts to the party. Like bring your own everything. Provide minimal, but maybe like you said about putting money in a pot so they can all buy
Yeah.
things together for going out. Maybe they can do that as a flat, or the people that are going all chuck in £1. I'm just going to read through the suggestions really quickly, and then we can just summarise on this last post, because they're going to have the party anyway. So the suggestion would be to lock your room, so people drunk do stupid stuff. You don't want to wake up or necessarily have people going through your stuff or making jokes for funsies, unless you're funsies, not heard that word in a while, or unless you're 100% comfortable with it. My main one is have a plan B if things start to get out of hand. Like, okay, it's 11 p.m. I believe that's probably a noise curfew as well, so don't get in trouble with the police, or don't break any rules. Time to all go to X club as if it was planned. It can be hard to communicate with a drunk person acting stupidly, as they will always reliably follow the herd. They always will follow the herd. Go to plans, invite flatmates and or anyone else within earshot. Make sure not attending is their choice rather than feeling excluded. So I think it's good that it's over Christmas period as well. Maybe some people have gone home at that point, so you're minimising a lot of the things there. But I think my final thoughts on that would be have fun and enjoy the Christmas period with your friends, because your friends can sometimes be closer than your family, and I think it's important to celebrate that. And as long as you are being conscientious of others, I think that's really, really important. Any last leaving remarks on the party aspect?
Don't put it on social media and be like, hey, everybody come. I think people these days are more savvy than that, but I have seen it happen. And it's that aspect of just having a little bit of control planned out in the first instance.
Definitely.
But yeah, absolutely have fun. It's some of the best times I had at that stage in my life was just hanging out with my flatmates, playing games and, messing around. And people these days, I think, are often, in a good way, very serious about their studies and their time at university. And, all the things that are going on at this time of year. So it's really important to, genuinely allow yourself to relax and enjoy time with other people.
Amazing.
I
Sheryl?
think just, make sure you set the boundaries. Like that was a good example of like, well, come 11 o'clock, we're going to do this. I mean, you don't really want to go to a party where everything's timetabled, but to have like a bit of a rough idea.
I feel like this person might have a schedule.
I think they have got a schedule.
A schedule's not a bad thing. So just, setting the boundaries, being mindful of everybody, and managing any expectations. So, if you just want to have some, good fun, just make sure that everybody is aware of what we're terming fun.
And Sheryl just used a word that I think summarises everything we've discussed today, and that's boundaries. I think it's really important that over Christmas we respect our own boundaries. Of course, we might move them slightly because we're in good spirits, but don't do anything that you wouldn't do normally or you might regret in the future. And if you are concerned about any of your decisions that you're making over Christmas or where to get support and help, even if you're not concerned and you just want to speak to somebody, please look at ARU services. We will provide a list of everything that's available to you over the Christmas period. But from us, a huge thank you for listening and watching in. This has been the very first ARU Reads Reddit, the Festive Christmas edition.